Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is the founder of One Bead, a nonprofit organization that's doing some remarkable things. And the CEO is Sara Wroblewski. Sara, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, the pleasure is all ours. We're excited. Tell us a little bit about what One Bead is and does.
Sure. So One Bead actually started with a trip to Kenya that I took about 3 years ago. And it started just as this opportunity to go to Kenya and to work at this recycled glass blowing studio. And while I was there, I worked with the owner of the studio, Ansem, and he had this problem. And his problem was that he wanted to support a local school, but he didn't know how. He had previously donated books, he had installed windows, but actually the books were stolen, the windows were broken, even desks were being stolen. So he approached me and my friend and said, "Do you have any ideas on how we can do this?" And we actually spent 2 days at the school. And I walked away from that saying, have you ever thought of making beads? Have you ever thought of making glass beads? And I'm actually wearing one right here. And he said, "No, I've never thought of doing something like that. Haven't done it before, but let's do it." So we jumped right in, and we spent about 24 hours kind of designing this prototype of a bead. And then I actually returned from Kenya just a week or two later, and we kind of put that project on the side, didn't really think about it. And I kept calling my friend back up and saying, "Hey, have you thought about this project? Do you want to jump into this? Should we make these beads? I really think that we could sell them in the United States and, raise some money to build a fence for this school," which was what they needed. They needed a fence. And my friend was really busy and doing a bunch of other things. And finally, I just felt like, this is an opportunity that I really can't pass up. So I reconnected with that glassblower, and we started designing One Bead, which is a company right now. I actually came back to the United States and participated in an entrepreneurial pitch competition, which was a 6-month-long process, and it was through my school, Hobart and William Smith Colleges. And I did a bunch of things during that process that really grew me as an entrepreneur. I changed my business completely from the start to the finish of that whole entire contest. I became a better public speaker. I learned so much about running a business. But most importantly, I guess I ended up winning the contest, and that came with $10,000 to really develop my organization. So since then, we've raised about $100,000 to date. We've been doing a bunch of projects in Kenya, and more recently we've designed these leadership programs that we run here in the United States. So we actually teach elementary school students about One Bead and about how we sell these bracelets that are made in Kenya all around the world, and then the profits from the bead sales actually go to projects in Kenya, but also here in the United States. And then we give those elementary school students a chance of their own to do something in their own community. So it's a really cool experience for the students, both here and in Kenya.
Well, it sounds like it really is. I mean, just amazing work, and it's such an inspiring story to hear how you, connected with this opportunity. But why do you think it is that you couldn't just walk away from what you saw in Kenya?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple answers, and the first is at the heart and soul of it all, it really was that glass blower. And I think a huge part of our mission is that we really believe that one person can make a difference. And that one person for me when I started was Ansem. He was this businessman who had really started his business from the bottom up. He had grown this company. He's employing so many people in Kenya, and it was amazing to see something that he was so passionate about grow into something that now he's able to give back through his passion, through glass blowing. And so seeing that and seeing how he felt that he was at this point to give back to his own community made me really want to do something like that myself. I think it's really important to give back to your own community. And so seeing his passion and seeing that in Kenya really made me come back to the United States and think, how can I do this? How can I be a part of this? How can I learn from him? And how can I have other people share in that experience?
Well, that really is I mean, I totally get it. Once you kind of have that opportunity to personify an experience like that, it really changes you. Tell us a little bit about your program here in the U.S. You've got a program that I'm not sure I fully understand, but you're giving people $1,000 grant. These are high school kids. You give them $1,000 grant and the challenge to do something. Tell us about that.
They're actually elementary school students. So
oh my gosh!
I know, it's crazy. People think, but it's amazing. It's really works. So I actually just completed a 6-week-long program in Geneva, New York, with about 100 students, and the results were beyond all my expectations. But essentially, I went into the school with a team. And we worked with 50 students a day after school for 2 days a week, so 2 different groups. And for the first 3 weeks, we teach leadership skills. So I taught them all about One Bead. That's kind of the hook for them. As 9, 10, 11-year-olds, One Bead is really easy for them to grasp and understand. You know, they can see how we get this bead from Kenya. We sell it here in the United States and in other countries, and then the profits fund projects in Kenya and here. And that's just such a simple business model that they really can understand it, and then they want to emulate it. So we tell them all about that, and then we teach them leadership skills like problem solving, public speaking, self-confidence, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses. And all of these were things that I went through when I was doing the pitch competition at HWS. And all of these things are things that I continue to think about as an entrepreneur. So I always am making that connection. You know, I'll walk in and say, you guys, I didn't know what to do today when I was deciding between this and this and this. And they find that so interesting. They feel like I'm talking to them on their level and giving them a real life experience. So then halfway through the program, I actually present them with an $1,000 check, which is something that 9-year-olds don't really understand. They're like, whoa, how is this happening? And I tell them that we're going to spend the next 3 weeks deciding how to use that money to make a difference in their own community. So now they have the chance to put the leadership skills that they've hopefully gained to use and actually make a real difference. So then we develop these action plans. They actually pitch the action plans in front of their peers, which is a really special moment. And then we choose one, and then we actually see it into fruition.
That is really exciting. So can you give us an example of one from this most recent cohort?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So one group had this really cool idea. They actually, in the beginning of the program, I was teaching them about different models for businesses, and I mentioned Tom's shoes as this one-for-one model, and that really struck a chord with them. So their idea was that kids in their school district, some of them don't have backpacks, and when they don't have a backpack, they're given a plastic bag. And it wasn't so much that bothered them. What bothered them was that the plastic bags aren't biodegradable. That's not thinking green. So their idea was that they wanted to use the $1,000 to buy backpacks and design them, and then sell the backpacks, and for each backpack sold, give one to a student in need. So we actually just bought 20 backpacks. They're made in the United States, and we had the kids make all these designs for them. And then I'm working with Space Vinyl, which is actually a graphic design company in their community who is printing all of the designs on the backpacks, and we're going to sell them on the One Bead website, and then all of the profits will fund backpacks going towards that school district.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so entirely
Amazing.
their idea. It's so cool.
Amazing. That is so cool that you're able to teach, apply, do. What a concept. That's tremendous.
It's really cool. The growth is just amazing, and it's so necessary too, I think.
Well, here you are, 14 years old. How are you? How old are you? You're like 22, right?
I'm 24 actually.
24. Oh my gosh, you're old. So you you're already having impact far beyond, most people. I want you to tap into the success you've had there and think about what has allowed you to have that impact, because everyone who's watching this show has one thing in common. They want to know how to have more impact. How would you coach us to have more impact?
Absolutely. I think that's such a big concept, this idea of social impact. And when you think about it, it can be kind of intimidating. What am I going to do to change the world? Or there's so many big issues right now. I think that's kind of the wall that people hit when they first think about this idea of social impact. So my advice to people would be to start with yourself. That's how I started. And I think that maybe not enough attention is paid to knowing yourself before you dive into something. I think that during the pitch contest, I had this amazing opportunity to learn about my strengths and about my weaknesses. And that's something that I always look back on, and it's how I run my business. Knowing my strengths and knowing what I can do and what I can't do, and knowing who I need to hire and who I don't need to hire. All of these things are really important. And as I've grown my organization, I've become more and more passionate. And I'm sure that everybody watching can probably hear it in my voice when I talked about the program in Geneva. But I'm so passionate about it now, and I really believe that these are the skills that kids need to have before they get to college. Why are we waiting? Why is it the first time you have to speak in front of people is in college or when you're pitching to a company? I think that that's just too long to wait. And I think that for anyone interested in doing something that has social impact, I think that you need to start right now, and that you need to really look at yourself and figure out what it is that you believe in. What risks are you willing to take? How do you deal with criticism? That's another thing that I think is really important, that I'm trying to teach students, is that failure is totally okay and necessary in order to grow. And I think that the more you can take criticism and the more you can grow from it, the bigger social impact you can have on the world around you, because you just have more information and more feedback from people, and that's so, so important.
Yeah. Well, Sara, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. It's just been a joy to have you. Before you go, tell us quickly how people can learn more about you, what you're doing, how they can support you, etc.
Sure. So you can buy a bracelet at One Bead, www.onebead.org. That's ONEBEAD. You can follow us on Instagram, One Bead. You can look at all of my many posts on Facebook if you follow One Bead Project on Facebook. And you can contact me at onebeadproject@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Well, Sara, thank you very much for being with us today. We're so excited about what you're doing. We wish you every success in continuing your work.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today. This has been great.
Thank you. The pleasure's been all ours. Now, let's do some good.